Lesson 16.2, Task 1. Model figure 8 numbers. Figure 8 numbers, also known as polygonal numbers, are numbers that can be represented by evenly spaced dots arranged in a geometric shape. Figure 8 numbers are commonly modeled with figures that have equal side lengths, such as equilateral triangles, squares, or regular pentagons, and regular hexagons. Some figure 8 numbers can be generalized by a polynomial. Triangular and square numbers can be represented by an arrangement of points in the shape of an equilateral triangle or square, respectively. The sequence of triangular and square numbers, as well as the polynomial expressions used to calculate the nth number in each sequence, are shown. So a triangular number, so if we start with one dot, and then we do 3 dots, and then we do 6, and then we do 10. You can see that these are equilateral triangles. So this can be represented by n times n plus 1 divided by 2. Or 1/2, because it would be 1 over 2. 1/2 n times n is n squared, plus 1/2 times n plus 1, which would be 1/2 n. So this, or this is another way to write the same expression here. So that represents what you see here with the triangular numbers. All right, so the square numbers. This one's a little easier. So you've got 1, and then you've got 4, and then you've got 9, 16. So this is just taking a number and squaring it. So the next one would be 5 squared, which would be 25, 36, etc. All right, so it says the figures shown combine the arrangements for triangular numbers and square numbers. The first 4 figure numbers for this pattern are 1, 5, 12, and 22. The first arrangement, the single dot, is the first square number. All right, so you can see here, they've got the dot, and then, so we got the square, and the dot, and the square, and the triangle, and the square, and the triangle. So what they're doing is combining this pattern with this pattern. You can see that they started with a dot over the second term here. So 1 dot, that was a triangle, that was the first term, and then this was the second one here for the square. So we went from 1 to second place. All right, so it says, how are the second, third, and fourth arrangements formatted? Choose the words to complete the statements. So the second figure, okay, this is the second figure. This is the first one, second, third, fourth. The second figure is formed by combining the first triangular number with the second square number. So here was the triangle, and this represents the square. The third figure is formed by combining the second triangular number with the third square number. The fourth figure is formed by combining the third triangular number and the fourth square number. So you can see that each one of these comes from the pattern above, but this one's coming, the triangle comes from the first term, and then this one comes from the second term. So that's a little bit different in how it's going to be written. So how can you create a polynomial expression that represents the numbers in this pattern? So choose the expressions to complete the statement. The number of dots in the nth figure is the number of dots in the blank square number and the blank triangle number. So it would be the nth square number and the n minus 1 triangular number, because this one always comes from the previous one from the square. And n minus 1 just represents the previous term. All right, so it says use the given formulas plus the results of the previous question to create a polynomial expression for the numbers in the pattern. Match the descriptions to the correct formulas. Alright, so we know that we've got the square part of the nth figure, the triangle part of the nth figure, the entire nth figure unsimplified, and then the entire nth figure simplified. Alright, so the square part, we know something squared is n squared. The triangle part was represented by n times n minus 1 over 2. And again, if you have forgotten that, you could scroll back up and it shows here n times n plus 1 over 2. And it shows here the square part is n squared. So we know that those two are matched correctly. And then we're going to go to the unsimplified. So which one of these terms looks unsimplified and which one looks simplified? Well, this one has an n and an n, so this one is unsimplified because there's two terms that can be combined. When we look at this one, it's got an n squared minus an n. This one has been simplified. So that would be the formulas that you see there. All right, so it says create a sketch of the fifth pattern. Use the sketch and the polynomial expression you wrote in part B to complete the statement, use whole numbers. All right, I'm going to pause the video for a second. I want you to go ahead and sketch that, and then we will complete this final two answers. All right, hopefully you took time to create your sketch here. If you go back up, all you had to do was look at the fourth term and create the fifth term. So where this was 4 by 4, we made our square 5 by 5, and where this started with 3, we're going to start here with 4. So this was our next drawing in the pattern, and that's what it told us to do. It said create a sketch of the fifth pattern. Use the sketch and the polynomial expression you wrote in part B to complete the statement, use whole numbers. So the formula for part B shows that the fifth number is equal to 3/2 times something minus 1/2 times 5, and the fifth number in the pattern is what? All right, so let's look at what we have here. So we know the top part, we know that comes from n times n plus 1 over 2, and so I can say we've got our fourth row, so we've got 4, so we've got 4 plus 1, and then we divide that by 2, so 4 plus 1 is 5, so 4 times 5 over 2, or 20 divided by 2, which is 10. So we know this top part is going to represent 10 dots based on the formula, and we know the second part here, the second part comes from n squared. And we know this is 5 by 5, so 5 by 5 is 25. So this part represents 25. So the whole thing together is 35. All right. So let's look at this and see what it says. So it says, again, the formula for part B shows the fifth number is equal to, let's look at part B. All right, the number of dots in the nth figure is the number of dots in the nth square number and the n minus 1 triangle number. All right, so the formula that the fifth number is equal to 3/2 times this number squared minus 1/2 times 5. So we're going to have 5 squared, which is 25, and the fifth number in the pattern is 35. All right, do they want 5 squared? All right, I don't know how they want that answer there. Let's do some checks here and see what happens. All right, so if we've got 3/2 times 25 minus 1/2 times 5 Does that equal, I'm just checking myself here, does that equal 35? All right, so I'm going to use my calculator here. See, 3/2 of 25 is 37.5. And then minus half of 5 is minus 2.5. And that is equal 35, equals 35. Okay, so my math is correct. This should be correct. I'm not sure why they've got that marked incorrect. I don't know how they want that, but that should be correct. So it's either going to be 5 squared or 25 in this blank here. All right, that's all for task 1. If you have any questions, let me know.